of the Sabbath, toward the dawn of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the sepulchre, and behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, came and rolled back the stone and sat upon it. His appearance was like lightning, his raiment white as snow. And then here's the line. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. And then we have the whole passage of the women, and don't be afraid, and go and tell the others, and they run into Jesus, and they can't believe it, you know, it's incredible. And they hold on to his feet and worship him. He says, don't be afraid, even though they had all this fear and trembling and joy. And then we get back to the guards. Those that had seen this, the angel descend from heaven and sit, opening the tomb and sitting there, and they were like amazed, so amazed, they were like dead men. That's how incredible this was for the guards. While they were going, the others, behold, some of the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. And when they had assembled with the elders to take counsel, they gave a great sum of money to the soldiers and said, tell people, his disciples came at night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if it comes to the governor's ears, we'll satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. And here's the line that you cannot believe. So they took the money and did as they were directed. Can you imagine that? It's impossible. They are guarding a Jewish rabbi with like prophetic word and miraculous power, who gave sight to the blind, had raised up 3 who had been dead, most recently, just a few days ago, like last week, Lazarus, who had been dead for 4 days. He had walked on water, miraculous catches of fish. I mean, the stories would have been, they'd have known, all the guards would have known everything, because they were hired, remember, they were hired to guard the tomb. Why? Because the guy they were burying had claimed, after 3 days, I'm going to rise again. That's why the guards were hired. They were just told, Pilate said, you've got guards. Go make the tomb as secure as you can. So they told the guards what? This is the guy that claimed he would rise in 3 days. So we're going to guard the tomb so that the disciples don't come steal him away and then tell everybody he rose from the dead. Like, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to stop this right now. We're going to end this story right here. This has gotten out of control. I mean, he's a carpenter rabbi guy. Not educated like the rest of the rabbis, not playing along, he has no power, you know, he's got like hippies following him. So we're just not going to worry about this, but we are going to secure the tomb. So that's what the guards have been told. They're guarding the guy who claimed I would rise in 3 days. While guarding him on the 3rd day, an angel descends. There is a great earthquake. I don't know if you've been in an earthquake before. If you have, there is a great earthquake. So they're like, because you can't be okay after an earthquake. An angel descends from heaven, which I've never seen, but only can imagine, and rolls back the stone. They're watching an angel roll a stone away from the door of the tomb. The guards who were hired, saying that the guy you're guarding will rise in claims he'll rise in 3 days. So they watch this happen. And then it takes, like, fear gets the better of them and they become like dead men. Now, guards are like not like normal people. Normal people would be like dead men. Like, I would be like a dead man I would probably die, actually. But guards are really tough guys. You know, they stand guard. Like, probably for 3 days, they hadn't really slept. They are tough guys, guards are. They're not wimpy guys like your or other people you might know or something. So they stay up all night. We had guards here overnight, all night long. who stood guard all night to make sure those who were praying the Psalms all night were saved. They didn't sleep from whenever yesterday, maybe they went 36 hours or something. Hopefully they're sleeping right now. But they're tougher than the rest of us. Those are the men that are now like dead men because they've seen all this. And it doesn't say like 7 weeks later, having forgotten the events on the tomb. It's that like moments later, it's that day. Some of the guard, not all of it, not all of the guard, but some of them go and say, they went in, well this is what it says. They went and the guard went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. Not like, I don't know what happened. They told them everything I just told you that you just heard in the gospel that you already know. That an angel came from heaven. There was an earthquake, and an angel came, and we watched an angel roll a stone away. The guy said, how about we give you a ton of money, and you lie about what you saw? You can't imagine them saying, okay, well, how much money? Like, is it $1 million? Is it $10 million? Is it $100 million? Like, how much? It says a great sum. So, I mean, for me, it would be like whatever's on the billboard at 44th Street and McDowell. I think it's like it's like almost 200 million bucks right now, the lottery. Okay, 200 million bucks. You can't imagine them making the deal, right? They gotta live with this. Like they're buying their kids like college and fancy camels or whatever they did, you know? They bought fancy houses, they had lots of money. They had lots and lots of money to spend on everything they ever wanted. They didn't have to be guards anymore. You know, they got to be gentlemen, you know, and like prune roses and whatever, play croquet or something, you know? That's what they were doing. And every day they did that, they were damned. You can't imagine them doing it, right? And the thing is, they probably couldn't have imagined themselves doing it either. And somehow they did it. They'd like, well, we saw an angel, but we could just pretend we didn't. And then we'd have whatever we want. You know, better clothes, an easier life. Things will be sweet from now on. Like the finest whatevers, luxuries. And you just can't imagine it happening. And I'd like to say that could be the case for us, but I just can't even imagine that happening to me. I can't imagine it trading money to keep quiet about an angel opening a tomb and the one who said he would rise, like, not being there. I mean, that's all the guards didn't ever see him. You know, but they watched an angel roll the tomb open. I just can't imagine that they're willing to make a deal for this with their lives and souls. But that's the risk that the human person can run. That's the risk the human person can run. And so we're always in this place of humility before the Lord, asking for His mercy all of the time, never going, well, I would never do that. If you are in that position, that's a dangerous place to be. I would never take money to keep quiet. You basically have to be, but for the grace of God. You know, if it weren't for the grace of God, I might do that deal. And you've watched kind of all the events that have led to this morning. You know, everything that's gone on. Judas, who repents after making the deal with Jesus, because he made a deal for money for Jesus too. It was enough, by the way, his deal was enough to buy real estate. Judas, you know, we think 30 pieces of silver. You know, it sounds like, I don't know, like what you might have in your wallet. But it was like, we'll give you enough money to buy land with. Several $100,000 if you're in Mesa, East Mesa. You know? So Judas makes a deal for a lot of money. And as soon as he sees what happens to Jesus, he doesn't want anything to do with it. And neither, by the way, do the chief priests want anything to do with that money either. They're like, we can't have anything to do with that money. That money is bad, blood money. So we have to be careful that we never get in the position of saying, well, I don't fall like that. or I don't sin like that, or I'm not in any danger like that. We just have to be humble before the Lord and say, the Lord has to have mercy and grant me grace so that I rely on him all of the time. The 11 disciples, which he goes on to say, not 12 anymore, because Judas has given himself up over to despair. The 11 disciples go to Galilee to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. The 11 now cannot be bought. You know, and we want to grow to be like those who cannot be bought. You know, we're humble to say it could happen. If I'm not, you know, if the Lord's not gracious and kind to me and I don't get off track here, I'll, you know, if I can stay on track, I'll be fine. But we just kind of keep that kind of gentle humility. Death had boldness. You know, Nebuchadnezzar got furiously angry out of boldness, you know, and heated the fire 7 times that it is wont to do, like broke the furnace with heat, you know, out of some kind of pride. You know, not just like make the fire hot, it's like make it 7 times hotter. It said he was in a furious rage. Nebuchadnezzar hadn't always been like this, by the way. The guards probably hadn't always been like this. Judas might not have always been like that. But when all of this changes, when all of these things go down, when all of this happened, when the tomb is open, when Judas does see what he has done, there's this chance for all of us to come back, right? There's this chance to change. Hades, death itself, experiences kind of remorse this way or regret and wants to change too. It were better for me had I not received the begotten of Mary. It's like regret, like death has regret. Like I regret this. It would have been better for me. Like I regret having taken the begotten of Mary. For when he approached me, he loosed my power, and he crushed my gates of brass, arousing the souls that I had possessed. And even more, my power has vanished, Hades says. Death goes, now I have actually no power anymore. Because I received a dead man as one of the dead, but couldn't hold him completely. And then listen to this. Rather, I lost with him those who were under my reign. So death not only loses Christ, the dead man, he lost the dead man. The dead man aroused all those who were dead. And then death says, I've actually lost all those under my reign. I lost with him those under my reign. From the beginning of time I have held control over the dead, but this one raised all. Wherefore, glory be to the crucifixion and to the resurrection, O Lord. I'm not really sure where the quote ends. Death is saying all those things. I'm not sure if it's death that says, glory to the crucifixion and to the resurrection, O Lord. I'm not sure. I don't know. But that's at least what we will say. Glory to thy crucifixion, to thy resurrection, O Lord. So where we stand right now is that the tomb has been opened, and we've run there to see it opened, and we have, I'm turning to where we are, and we have now run into Christ. And we're not sure of what it all means. You know, Jesus who had been dead, like a crouching lion laying there, we would not pass. You know, now something's happened. Everything's been changed. But we're not quite sure of what the depth of it all is. And just as I was saying last night, that there's a change rather than a replacement. We're not changing joy for sorrow. Jesus has transformed sorrow into joy. We're not changing life, that Christ has his life back or something. It's that he has transformed death. There's been a transformation of death. So death is saying, I've lost all control here. All my power's gone. And the challenge for us, all those who've been baptized into Christ and put on Christ, the challenge for us, and I'll end with this, the challenge for us is to live in the reality that death has been broken. That death has lost its power and control. That death has, regretted taking Christ. With our own lives, I mean. If we were to fall sick today, that we would keep in our hearts and minds and souls the reality that death is not what it used to be, which was a separation from the Father. And now death hasn't been exchanged for life. Death has been transformed into life. That to go into life, you got to go through death. And death, where in the past would separate us from God, death now becomes the path. The crucifixion is the path. The suffering is the path. That's the path into the kingdom. That's how you get into the promised land. So let us pray for the grace of God to stay humble and to rely on the Lord always, to not be prideful or I am not like other sinners or some kind of thing. That we would be like the man in the back of the church rather than the front. A publican instead of the Pharisee, which we heard 8 weeks ago or something. Maybe 9 weeks ago. That we would be like the one in the back who wouldn't even raise our heads and say, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. Not without hope, which was Judas's problem. With hope and reliance on the Lord, trusting in God. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.